This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today I wanted to share a story with you about the $10,000 hammer. Well, it's not really a $10,000 hammer, but you'll see. It sounds good, doesn't it? $10,000 sounds like Thor's hammer or something. Anyway, $10,000 hammer. So there's a story about this cruise ship that wouldn't start, right? For some reason, they couldn't get the engine to start, and so they called in all these. I'm going to call them ship mechanics. People might marine mechanics or something. Anyway, and they said, look, we can't do it. You got to call this guy. This guy didn't. The details of the guy they passed on didn't have a website. He just simply had a number and a name, and that was it. And so the ship company called him up, and he came down. It's an old fella. He's about 60, 65, near on retired, right? And he said, "I'll just take us down to the engine room." And so he goes down to the engine room and he goes, "Kick it over." And he listens, and then he waits, and he inspects the engine. He looks around, and then he goes up to one spot, grabs a hammer out of his bag, and just hits this one spot and kicks it over again. And they kick it over, and it starts. And they're like, that was astonishing. It was like a couple of minutes, and that was it. Like, all these other guys came in, they couldn't get this thing going, but this guy hit it with the hammer in one spot in a couple of minutes and done. And so he goes, I'll send you guys the invoice. Anyway, he leaves, and the next couple of days later, the ship company gets this invoice, and it says, invoice for $10,000. And the ship company wrote back saying, can you please send an itemized invoice? And the guy writes back, sends a new invoice rather, and it says, hitting the engine with a hammer, $2. Knowing where to hit the engine with the hammer, $9,998. And see, this is the thing, is that a lot of the time we're so used to, in today's society, being paid by the hour, right? Or looking at, the job rather than the outcome of the job and how much that is worth in financial, services. So you think that if this ship couldn't leave harbour for whatever reason, it's a lot more than $10,000 to them. It's really, really interesting. But the key to this story, the thing that I love about it, is that it's experience, it's wisdom, and often with people, when you're with them, you're actually buying their experience and their wisdom or their years in the game, rather than simply we spent an hour together. And like that's for example, and this is with PT. If I'm doing any PT, it's like, well, you're not just paying for an hour of my time. There's a couple of things you're paying for. One is you're paying for that hour. You're also paying me to not do anything else with that hour. I'm not spending it with my family. I'm not spending it building the business. You're asking me to spend my time. And I'm not saying that I'm on this high chair and you should bow before me. It's just like, these are the things that I have to consider. Is it worth my time doing? I can't build a business while I'm working with you, technically. I can't spend time with my family. I can't train and play sports myself. I can't read or write or do those sorts of things. I have to be here for this 1 hour. That's one part. The other part is, in that hour, you're getting 15 years experience and somewhere over 5,000 people and however many books and however many courses in that 1 hour. You're not getting, I've just finished, which is nothing wrong, by the way, with just finishing school and doing PT or whatever degree you're doing. I did a podcast a little while ago about being a professional beginner, right? Like, you can be a professional beginner. There's plenty of amateur experts, right? And so the key thing there is, like, start where you're at and work from there, but really look at the service and the quality and the value that you're giving within your time frame, but also, more importantly, the outcome for the people that are receiving that. And this is why wisdom and experience are so powerful, and it takes fucking years. And I think one of my first 5 podcasts was called this, maybe. It was called Blood, Sweat and Years. And it's because a lot of the time we neglect the patience required to be able to get really good at something, right? It's like we're afraid of making bad decisions, not realize and wanting to become wiser or better without it, right? But making good decisions, and this isn't my quote, it's someone else's. Making good decisions comes from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. Like, we can't just get experience by always making good decisions. And this is why if you ever see someone like a business coach, that have like, they've been in business and everything they've done, everything they touch turns to gold, and they haven't fucked up, then they might know what to do, but they don't know how to deal with, new emerging markets and shifts in the markets and maybe employees, etc., etc., etc. There's all these other varieties and variables to what's going on. And so really understanding that in order to make good decisions, well, they come from experience, and to get experience, that comes from bad decisions. And within that, that's how over time we're able to build wisdom, right? So wisdom, here's another way to think about wisdom as well, right? So knowledge is knowing what to say. Wisdom is knowing whether to say it or not. Because that's the thing. It's like, well, this person, they can't see this. There's an obvious solution for them. They can't see it. It's like, well, maybe, yeah, but is it your position to say anything? And how do you know that what you're going to say is going to A, improve the silence, B, is it actually in benefit of them, or is it in benefit of you? If two people are fighting and struggling, and I'm not saying you shouldn't break up a fight. I'm not saying what to do here. I'm just looking at a situation from a fourth person perspective here, of being like, how do you not know that these two people need to have this fight? It's interesting, right? It's like, well, it's bad. It's like, bad in what circumstance? Has there been times when it was a good thing? So it's so interesting when we can step back and look at, think about the podcast of the day around decisions, but every single decision that we make, it's like, well, the good and bad, yes, they kind of don't exist except for judgment subjectively, but either way, being able to see that allows us to, over time, build wisdom. And that is more powerful than anything, because, it's funny, right? Because I remember always listening to like the stories and the riddles about the guy that climbed to the tallest mountain in Tibet and asked the guru a question, and the guru answers in a riddle. But they're not riddles. It's like the guru is like, fuck man, figure it out yourself. Hey, like the two people fighting, figure it out yourselves. Like, let me know if you need some fucking help or whatever, but otherwise figure it out. Like, that's your job. It's your battle. It's not my battle. And this is an analogy, but it's a metaphor, right? It's not if you're fighting with someone or something and that's uncomfortable for me, my battle is, why is it uncomfortable for me? Not that they're fighting. And that's a big difference. Why do you feel the need to break it up? That's an interesting thing. And like, think of it as a metaphor. Apply it to however you want, to whatever and however you want to apply it. But either way, it's knowing where to hit the hammer, right? And that's where you get the money from. Now, the money is just energy. And we've talked about this before. So that's where you get the energy from. That's where it's a trade of energy. That's where, over time, with patience, you will be able to yield this level of wisdom that gives you this space to know whether to say the knowledge or not. Right? Like, I know a guy who's like, he's really fucking smart. Really smart. And knows a lot. And what I think his next stage of awareness and development is really learning how to listen and ask questions, like inquisitive questions, not questions or loaded questions or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that he is, but it's just that space of like, okay, this is what I know, and as long as I'm talking, I'm not learning. If you think of it like that, it's like, well, let me ask a question and see what I can learn. Fuck me, you can learn so much more. Now you can talk and learn because you can pay attention and learn the things that you're really saying and what your real intentions are. And that's learning in real time. That's conscious awareness learning, right? Flow learning, as I call it. And so there is a balance there, but really we learn by listening, by asking questions, by observing, by being the witness, rather than simply talking and doing the rest. And so, know where to hit the hammer. Anyone can hit a fucking hammer on something. Anyone can do that. Know where and when to apply it. And on that note, I'm going to apply the hammer and I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you jump on Facebook, Mood Prep Online. Find me on Instagram under DDNix. Otherwise, well, as always, let me share this one. If you found this podcast beneficial, then it would mean the world to me if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. Otherwise, team, I'm out. I'm going to take the dog for a quick walk. Hopefully he does a poop. You needed to know that for no reason at all. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be